Welcome to the 3030 Health Podcast. The following discussion is for education and entertainment. It is not intended to diagnose or treat disease. Please do not apply any of this information without first discussing it with your doctor. Here is your host, Guillermo Ruiz.
Hello everyone, today's guest on the show is Ellen Jaworski from Triple Peak Paleo. Ellen Jaworski is a globetrotting health coach on a mission to make healthy living easier for busy people. As a former Hollywood art director working 12 plus hours a day, she felt mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted until she took control of her own health. Using a holistic real foods approach, Ellen doubled her energy, transformed her body, and changed her life. She has been featured as a guest blogger on Stupid Easy Paleo, and you can follow her adventures on her website, triplepeakpaleo.com. Next month, I will be visiting Seattle for one of my favorite conferences of the year, the Ancestral Health Symposium. This year, I will be presenting alongside Rob Wolf, Chris Masterjohn, Dan Party, Katie Bauman, Daryl Edwards, Stephen Gagne, and many more. If you haven't bought your ticket, you can use the code 3030STRONG to receive a discount. I hope to see you there. Thanks for your support and enjoy the show. Super excited to have Ellen Jaworski here with me. Ellen, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here chatting with you.
So we met at Paleo FX and randomly, we
Yes.
ended up we ended up having dinner for a charity dinner with some pretty cool people, and I was very interested in some of the stuff that you're doing. So Ellen, before we start, what's your hero story?
Well, my health journey started in 2011. So I had just moved out to Los Angeles after graduating with a degree in design for television and theater. So I'd moved to Los Angeles with the goal of climbing the ladder in art department for live event television. So being in LA, there are a lot of beautiful people there. And that became very apparent to me, especially being in the TV industry. I had struggled with body image my entire life. And being against that backdrop of all these beautiful people, especially on TV sets, that really started to, the voice became louder and louder in the forefront of my mind. And being on TV sets, they are not particularly healthy eaters. So there's this thing called the craft services table, and it is basically a snack table with every unhealthy snack that you can think of. Doritos, chips, red vines, popcorn. They'll serve donuts for breakfast, bagels, sodas, anything you want, you can get, and it's there the entire day. And TV is a pretty stressful industry, and I used to be an emotional eater. So anytime things would get stressful, I'd go to the crafty table and grab a piece of chocolate, and that turned into two chocolates, and then a bag of Doritos, and this and that. So within the first 6 months of being in the TV industry, I noticed that I was starting to get heavier, and that really made me uncomfortable. And I had my aha moment. I remember this very clearly. It was after Halloween. I had dressed up as a Wonder Woman. So I was in a skin tight corset and leggings, and I saw a picture of myself a couple days later, and I felt like I didn't recognize myself. And that sparked a fire in me. I decided that it was time for me to take responsibility for my body and my health. And it did start with as an extrinsic motivator. It was more about looking good,
Looking the part.
looking the part, being a beautiful person in Los Angeles, thinking of caring about what other people thought of me. So I didn't know where to start. So I just turned to conventional wisdom: calories in, calories out, and adding exercise in, so walking every day. And that worked. I lost 20 pounds, but then I hit a plateau. And I was okay with that for a while. Then I was shipped off to Miami for work. I kind of lost my mind while I was there because I was alone. I was in an incredibly stressful position, art directing a show that where everyone was speaking Spanish, and I didn't speak Spanish. My boss wasn't there. I was alone. So I decided, hey, I'm going to work on myself right now. I'm going to hire a personal trainer. So I'll have a friend and just like keep going with my weight loss so people will hopefully like me. So he put me on a carb cycling diet and had me exercising 3 times a week. And that too was very successful. But I became so obsessed with the numbers. Every time I went in for a weigh in, did the numbers go down on the scale? Were my body measurements smaller? Was my BMI smaller? And I started to assign the numbers that I was seeing to my self worth. And so even when I hit my skinniest, I was more unhappy than I'd been when I started. And it was right around that time that the universe put paleo in my life. And that's when those extrinsic motivators became intrinsic motivators. I started trying paleo because at first I thought it was a low carb diet. And I noticed that I was feeling better on my low carb days when carb cycling than I was on my high. But we all know now that paleo is what you make it. It does not have to be low carb or high carb.
What was your gateway drug into paleo? Who was the author or blog or?
Mark Sisson.
Ah,
Mark Sisson
Mark.
was the first one that I really stumbled upon. Someone was like, hey, you need to read Mark's Daily Apple. And I was like, okay, I'll check that out. And then I saw he had a book. So I read the Primal Blueprint.
Which is an amazing book.
And oh, absolutely. And it takes you through, I think it's seven pillars. And I loved everything that Mark had to say. It made so much sense to me. And as soon as I started implementing those principles into my own life, the effects were immediate. My energy doubled. I was sleeping the best I'd ever slept at night and then waking up in the morning feeling refreshed. I was feeling good about my body. I felt like I'd finally found a sustainable way
What year
to.
was this?
This was 2013, the end of 2013. Yeah. So all these effects just became so apparent to me, and it had such an impact on my work because in the backdrop of all of this health journey, I was working my way up the art department ladder. I was doing 12-hour days, often 6 or 7 times a week. So my work life balance was totally out of whack. But what was getting me through was knowing that if I took care of my body, I was going to feel better and I would perform better and I would be more productive. And work ultimately would be a better experience for me.
And and it's amazing how that happens because it starts, my journey started like that. It started with like, oh, I want to see I'm not this person that I'm seeing in the mirror. And then once you know how to control the scale, once you like, oh, it's been a couple of weeks of stress, I'm 5 pounds heavier, I can just automatically change a couple of things in my diet, and then the scale goes back to where it was. Easy. But it becomes way more than that. Like for me, it took me to medical school, and helping my family and helping my friends. This movement takes over, and it's beyond just the scale. You decided to start, your own little movement to help people that in the same place that you were. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it came about?
Yeah. So my blog, Triple Peak Paleo, is healthy living for busy people because that's what I've been for the last 6 years. Incredibly busy between a full-time art directing job, working insane hours, traveling constantly for work. I had to figure out how to make healthy happen amidst all that. So I want to be able to share those tools, those tips and tricks. Those one thing I love is efficiency. And a lot of people, what I hear is, "Oh, I don't have time to be healthy. I just can't fit that in right now." And I want to show people that yes, you can. There are small changes that you can make that are going to have such a huge impact on your health and your quality of life. And when you're living your best life possible, everything else falls in line. Work becomes easier, relationships become easier because you are living life to the fullest.
What was your first like, oh, you know what? This is like a hack that you discovered?
Yeah. I think the biggest one for me was the gateway into all this was meal prep.
Mm.
Because I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I have lunch for this week. And sometimes, if it was a 14-hour day a week, every week, each week I would say, okay, how can I make lunch and dinner and have that for 5 days this week? So meal prep became key. I would, if I had Sundays free, I would pick 2 or 3 recipes, cook the crap out of everything I could, portion everything into containers. So then during those busy days of the week, all I'd have to do is grab those food containers, put them in my cooler, and food was ready for me.
Now, when you do meal prep now that you with all your knowledge, are you conscious about calories anymore, or you're good at like eyeballing it?
Yeah, I'm good at eyeballing it these days. It was very educational to be counting calories, and to really understand what went into protein and fat and vegetables, and just and being aware of that, because that's I feel like that's not something that's really taught to anyone.
Because when you go to a restaurant, you end up eating a ton of food because that's what we like. We value a ton of food and we like associate it with, oh, that's a quality restaurant. So when we go out, we end up overeating. And when we are at home, we tend to undereat, which both have its problems, especially when you are out and about for weeks at a time. So being able to have a good eyeballing technique where you can decide, oh, this meal is going to be enough to power me today because I'm not working out, or I'm going to have to order twice in because I gotta go crush a wad.
Yes, absolutely. And then another problem that plays into that as well is a lot of us are raised as kids, with parents telling us, finish everything on your plate.
Oh, I was one of them.
Eat everything. Yep, me too. So I even these days I'm a proud member of the Clean Plate Club.
Oh man.
But again, when you're saying what you're saying about restaurants is they serve massive portions. So if you're a Clean Plate Club member in that circumstance, you might be eating twice the amount you need. So it's about learning how to eat so that you're fueling yourself to about 75% fullness. So it's not like, oh, I have to unbuckle my belt and I'm not going to be able to move for the next 2 hours because I just ate like a double portion size. It's about learning what fills you and satisfies you to about 75%, and then choosing not to eat the rest, and saving it for
How do you
later.
do that though? Like if I go, it- so I eat like 90%, 80% of my meals at home. Okay.
Mhm.
What would Ellen do if she goes to a restaurant, she sits down and, oh shit, they just brought you 5,000 calories?
Well, there are a couple strategies that I would implement in that circumstance. The first one would be I would separate the meal in half, visibly separate it. So move half of it to one side of the plate and half of it to the other. So I have a clear barrier that says, okay, you're going to eat this half and not that other half. Depending on what the content is, and also, just as you know, and your listeners hopefully know, like, if you're eating quality calories, like, that's okay. Don't be calorie conscious. Like, I don't want people feeling like they have to count calories. So just take all this with a grain of salt. But you can employ the visual reminder of splitting your meal in half. Another thing is, when you've eaten to about 75% fullness, start putting your garbage on your plate. Put a crumpled up napkin on it. Put your straw wrapper onto your plate. Or you can make a physical gesture, push your plate away, and or announce to the table, "I'm done. That was a really great meal." Because when you say that out loud or you make a physical gesture, it kind of creates a pattern interrupt in your head, and it starts moving your mind towards thinking, okay, I'm done, I'm full.
So I've been going to school. So my path is, from my room to the kitchen for some coffee, to go study for 8 hours, come back, have a meal, go back to study, and then have another meal, go to bed. So I have, I'm not eating out, a lot. But if you're traveling, if your job, if your line of work has you traveling and you have to eat out, my friend Devin, he works helping hospitals fix their inventory of supplies. So he is out every week for 4 days. So he flies to Chicago, he flies to St. Louis, and he's out there for at a hotel. So what he does, he goes to Chipotle and buys 2 bowls. And they already know that he's gonna walk in at 11, have 2 bowls. He takes eats one for lunch, once for dinner, and he can do that every day for weeks at a time. I can't do that. I need a little bit more variety. So I can imagine, like going to one of these places, sitting down, and then you get excited because you might go to a place that has excellent gluten-free pizza or excellent, I don't know, tacos, and now you want to experience this, and now you're going to overeat for weeks at a time. That's really good strategy. So just push your plate, and I tend to do that. When I'm done eating, I just go boop.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference just creating that break in your mind. Totally.
So what about like when you're road tripping? What are your favorite snacks?
Well, as you know, I've just completed a 3.5 week road trip. I started in Los Angeles and worked my way up and down and across the country, and currently I'm in New Jersey. So, one of the most important strategies that I use when I'm road tripping is to make sure that I am stocked up with snacks, like you're saying. So, I've got a canvas bag full of snacks because when you're in a confined space in your car, you need to have nutritious food that's readily available because if you're driving through the middle of Kansas, there might not be any good options. So, in my snack bag for this particular road trip, I had an assortment of RX bars, I had Epic bars, I had a whole bunch of Primal Kitchen collagen bars. When you're traveling, individually packaged items become a huge help. So, individually packaged pieces, collagen, Vital Proteins collagen packets. Those are great because you can just slip that into your coffee in the morning. I have been loving Fat Fuel butter coffee. It's this instant butter coffee. So I can pull over at 7-Eleven. I can stop at a diner in the morning, ask them to fill up my mug with hot water, and then I've got this packet of Fat Fuel coffee that I pour into that hot water. All I have to do is mix it, no blender required, and I'm good to go. So those are some of my favorites.
Now, for the fat fuel coffee, do you fast, or is that or do you take that with your breakfast, or is that your meal for that time?
It depends on the day. I kind of just tune in and listen to my body's signals to see how hungry I am. A lot of mornings I would start off with a Fat Fuel coffee, and that would take me to about lunchtime. But other mornings we would stop, my passenger and I would stop for breakfast, and I would have a smaller breakfast, especially if we were in the middle of nowhere and we weren't able to get something quality. For example, the morning of 4th of July. We were driving towards Alabama. We were somewhere in the middle of Mississippi. The only thing that we could find that was open was a Waffle House. So we made the decision to pull over and grab breakfast there. So I chose what I figured was the lesser of the evils, some bacon and eggs. And to supplement that, I asked for that cup of hot water, poured in my Fat Fuel coffee. So then I knew I would be getting high quality, healthy fats to supplement my meal and went from there.
And that's the key, don't let perfection be the enemy of good.
Absolutely.
There's a Waffle House like right around the corner from where I live. They can scramble some eggs and give you some bacon, and if you're feeling a little bit, frisky, you can get some hash browns with some chili. Twice a year, this it's not gonna kill you.
No, absolutely not. And especially when you're traveling, travel is stressful enough. So don't beat yourself up. Don't add more cortisol into your system. Don't interrupt your body's digestive process by stressing yourself out about the food that you're putting into your body.
Here in the West Coast, we were lucky enough to have In and Out.
Yes, we are.
So my order In and Out is a 4x0, so 4 patties, no cheese, no spread, protein style. So that's a 4 patty, two slices of tomatoes wrapped in lettuce with grilled and raw onions. And I sometimes have the fries, sometimes I don't. And that's like a super amazing filling meal. Again, it's not grass fed. It's not, it's not going to be like the cleanest meal. But if you are in a rush, that's something that is going to be pretty damn clean. Any other places that you've discovered that have good fast food options for us paleo people?
Yeah, I love that you brought up Chipotle earlier. That's one of my go-tos in a second. You can do a burrito bowl or salad. And that's an easy option. They try to sustainably source their meat. They have high quality ingredients, so that's a great one to keep on the radar. No fast food options are coming to mind immediately, but when I'm at a place that I'm not familiar with, that I'm not sure about the quality, my eye always goes to see what the protein options are on the menu. What is the closest to a protein and vegetables that I can order and ask to have tweaked or modified? What can I remove the sauce from? What can I say, oh, no, thank you to the rice. Could I substitute that with this steamed broccoli or these sauteed veggies that I see on the sides order? So it's being able to customize it to fit what you want. And most places are very open to that, especially if you tell them it's a food allergy or a dietary preference. These places want you to have a good meal, so they're willing to accommodate you.
Can you tell us about your experience at that Italian restaurant in New Jersey? I've been stalking you on Instagram. Sorry.
I love it. Yeah, so I wound up at an Italian restaurant in Montclair, New Jersey a couple days ago. Usually Italian wouldn't be my first choice because that's makes for a difficult meal when you're paleo because a lot of Italian dishes are composed of bread and cheese. So I didn't really have any say in the matter. I was part of a post-bridal shower group that was going out for a meal. So when you're in that situation, you just have to make the best of it. So when I sat down, I looked at the menu. Of course, you've got your pasta dishes, you've got your eggplant parmesan, you've got ravioli, lasagna. So the first thing I scanned through to look at were the salad options, and I was like, okay, if I need to, I can go the salad route. I can probably add some grilled chicken to that. That'll be okay.
And they'll probably have like olive oil and balsamic vinegar. So you don't even have to go through like the maybe the dressing is going to be a little bit, iffy, but you can create your own dressing, in 2 steps.
Exactly. And the great thing was that at this restaurant, they had this very cool shaped olive oil and vinegar thing right on the table. So it almost looked like an art piece. It was like calling my name, like, Ellen, eat this, eat this. But I was able to look at the entrees and find something that would work for me. I asked if they would substitute broccoli for the grain that was part of this mixed grill plate. And while everyone at the table was eating pizza, spaghetti, you name it, I was the lone person there with the sausage, the shrimp, and the broccoli, and I loved every bite of it.
We are, so like programmed to think that, okay, so we are going out for dinner. That's a social event. I'm going to kick my heels because it's a social event. The social event happens at the table. The social event is not happening in your plate. Being there with friends is super important for your psyche and to not be a hermit. Because what good is having health if you can't share with your family and friends? But that doesn't mean you gotta eat like shit because no one cares. No one in that table cares what you eat. In fact, if they give you crap, there is someone that knows you very well and they're just teasing you in a friendly manner, or they're just an asshole.
Absolutely.
And you need to be separating yourself from the assholes.
Absolutely. I always tell my clients, like, if someone's giving you a hard time about what you're choosing to put on your plate, like, you need to think about who they are and
Maybe
who
don't
you're
go out
choosing to
for
spend
dinner
time
with them.
to. Yeah, exactly, because you want to surround yourself with people who support you, people who stretch you absolutely and challenge you to be a better version of yourself, but people who support you.
Yeah, there's just you can go bowling.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's one strategy when I first started eating healthy that I used with my friends. I would always be the person that when someone asked, "Hey, you want to grab dinner?" I'd jump right in and be like, Yeah, absolutely. What about this place? And
Hmm.
knowing that that place that I was recommending had a healthy menu, I would look up restaurants beforehand. I would know places that I could eat that would suit my needs so that I could get what I wanted and then my friend could get what they wanted because I never want to make my healthy eating a burden on someone else. I want them to be able to do what they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't want that to impact the enjoyment of hanging out.
Yeah, it totally goes both ways. And I think it takes a couple of times, it takes some time after you switch your diet because you're so excited about the way you're eating that then you become that person that is like, actually, what you're eating right there is going to kill you. And that's not nice either. So don't be a
No, we don't
jerk.
want that.
Don't be a jerk. Don't tell your friends that that bun is going to give them cancer.
Exactly. There's a nice way to be at a restaurant and very kindly ask for modifications or substitutions without holding up the entire order process or becoming the needy one among your friends.
And because it shows, like my energy changed. I was a different person, and the people that wanted to hear me talk about this stuff would ask me, and I would gladly just pull them aside and be like, well, this is the reason why I do it, and here's this book, you should read this, without having to castigate them in at the dinner table while they're eating their waffles.
Exactly, exactly. If you want to keep friends and eat healthy, don't impose your eating habits on other people. If they're curious, let them come to you, let them ask about it, and tell them what you want to tell them. But it's sort of like a religion. You don't want to shove it down someone else's throat because that's not how you get people on your side. Let them approach you with curiosity and then, give them enough information to get them curious. Let them make their own decision.
And it's very tongue in cheek because paleo is not a religion. uh,
Exactly, exactly. Our
so
diet should not be dogma.
because and this is something that I don't think I've said in a podcast, and I've been thinking about this lately, because a religion is based on faith, and my diet preferences, whatever you want to call it, paleo, paleo-ish, clean eating, keto, whatever you want to call it, are based on science. And if tomorrow there is evidence that what we've been doing is wrong and we should be eating wheat every day, I would come on the podcast, give my sincerest apology, and then say, guess what, guys? We're going to start eating wheat now. Because it's science. Science has changes as information progresses. And what works for me might not work for Ellen, and what works for Ellen might not work for anyone that's listening. But be your own investigator, and maybe you have tricks and tips that you can share with your friends and family that maybe no one has ever thought about that. And that's how we're gonna grow this health movement.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I find with my friends is they see what I'm eating, they see what I'm posting on Instagram, and they're coming up to me and saying, "Oh, how did you make that? That looks so good." Or, "Wow, that was so simple, but it was so delicious." And by them coming to me and asking me what changes they can make, that's them being motivated. That's not me shoving it down anyone's throat. That's not me forcing it on anyone. Because when you're motivated to make a change and say eat healthier, that's when that's going to happen for you. That's when this fire is going to light in you and you're going to say, "Hey, I want to make these changes. This is important to me. I now have a motivating factor that's inspiring this and even though it's tough, I'm going to keep with it because I see value in that and I see why it's important and I see how it's going to make a positive change in my life."
Yeah, and that's the truth. It ain't easy. It
No, it's not.
there's so many pressures. There are intrinsic pressures, extrinsic pressures, and then there's pressures within the movement. And then you think you have to be perfect 100% of the time, and then you start getting paranoid, or you elevate your cortisol because you accidentally ate some seed oil that you didn't ask for. As long as you're doing making the right decision more times than not, that's when you can shed that and start actually getting healthier.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite things to do is to look for recipes that are automatically paleo-ish, like paleo, without having to modify them.
Hmm.
I don't like to do paleo foods. I don't like to do like, oh, let's take this brownie and make it into a paleo brownie. I like to look for things that are automatically paleo. What are some of your favorite like recipes that you meal prep and you can eat a bunch of times in a row and not get tired of?
Yeah, I think simplicity is key in that respect. It's really taking it back to basics, eating real food. One of my favorite meals recently while I've been traveling has been the simplest of the simple. It's been a sausage, high quality sausage from hopefully a local place, or at least a sausage that doesn't have any sugar or weird additives in it. Broccoli sauteed in coconut oil and roasted sweet potato. And that is so simple, especially right now while I'm traveling. I'm staying with a friend in New Jersey right now. I'm going to be in Vermont tomorrow. I'm going to be in Connecticut later. I like to eat out while I'm traveling, but I also like to eat in because that way I have full control over the quality of the food that I'm eating. So I can balance these new things that maybe aren't perfectly paleo with perfectly paleo at home, because when I'm home, I'm 100% paleo.
100%. Yeah. And
Exactly. And you save the extra for when you're eating out, or when you want to try that one little thing, or you're not sure that something's going to be cooked in grass-fed butter or olive oil or coconut oil.
and it's less expensive.
Exactly, exactly. So it's a great way to keep travel affordable. So I like to take it back to basics, like I'm saying. I structure my meals with a protein and two vegetable sides for the most part. So on days that I'm able to get a workout in, I like to make it a low carb veggie side and a high carb veggie side. So that goes back to the sausage, the broccoli, and the sweet potato. Or you can easily begin to switch that out and modify. So, for example, a couple days ago, instead of the sweet potato, I added sauteed eggplant, because it's so easy to go to any grocery store and find vegetables for the most part. Unless you're in the Ozarks of Arkansas, and let me tell you, it was impossible to find vegetables up there.
Because even in like I've had some killer collard greens, and
Mhm.
there was this place off of in like the border of Georgia and Florida, Valdosta, that had like some amazing barbecue and collard greens. And what's more paleo than that?
Oh, absolutely. It's so good. I'm sure they add sugar into those collard greens,
Hey,
which is one of the reasons why it's so good. But like
20%.
we've talked about, exactly, you save the little unpaleo-ness for when you're out to eat.
Now, you said something that I was like, huh, let me ask her about this. How do you work out? How do you work out when you're traveling in a car across the country and did you pre-plan this route, or are you taking it like, maybe I'll take this detour today?
For the most part, my route was planned out. I had passengers, different passengers for different legs of this trip. So we made a plan of where we were going to be. We booked some Airbnbs in advance. We camped for 5 or 6 nights on the trip. So that was a little bit more up in the air because a lot of campsites are first come, first served. So that was a fun challenge. But for the most part, it was planned. And I love making workouts a part of my travels, my tourism. I think that is the most fun because it's such a great way to get out of your normal exercise routine and try something new. Or so a lot of times I'm a full-time CrossFitter. I've been doing CrossFit for 2 years in Los Angeles. I love it. I get a lot out of it. It's a lot of fun. So when I'm traveling, I love to find a local CrossFit box and drop in for a workout. And CrossFit boxes are so receptive to it. It's very cool. They welcome visitors, and if they don't, they're not a cool CrossFit box. Don't go there. You don't want to be there with those people. So I like to find a box. I will drop in, get my workout on, and the cool thing is that by working out with different coaches and different groups of people, you might learn something new. You might learn something about, oh, I really like what this coach does. I want more of that. How can I add more of that into my workout? Or you might learn a new move that they don't do at your box. Or you might meet some really cool people. And that's another thing that I love about working out when I'm traveling, is that you meet locals. You are there in a place with like-minded locals who prioritize their health. So it's a great opportunity to ask, "Hey, what's a great spot for a grass-fed burger in town? What's something that I can do that's outdoors that I can get another workout in, like hiking or climbing stairs or something?" So it's a great spot to meet other people. And I don't just do CrossFit when I'm traveling cross country. I also take the opportunity to try different kinds of workouts. A couple days ago in New Jersey, I went to a HIIT class, a high intensity interval training class, which was great. And when I was in Denver a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go do yoga on the rocks at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Cool.
So that was Saturday morning, 7 a.m. in an amphitheater packed with thousands maybe of yogis. And we're all outside doing different yoga poses in the sunlight and the fresh air. And I just had this aha moment for myself. I love doing yoga outside. That's so important to me. So that's something I wouldn't have found out if I was just doing my regular workout routine back in Los Angeles. So that's something that I'm going to be taking with me and applying to future workouts. So working out while traveling, you get to keep your healthy habits up, but it also gives you a fresh perspective on what you're doing.
That's pretty cool, And then, did you go on any big hiking trips while you were camping?
Yes, I did. The absolute highlight for me was hiking the Narrows Trail in Zion National Park. And that is a hike unlike any I have done before. It's a hike through a river up a slot canyon. So you have to imagine you are literally walking through a river, anywhere from your ankle deep in water up to just above waist height in water, sometimes deeper if you don't take the most efficient path. But and on either side of you are these 50-foot high canyon walls. And if you start like we did at 6:45 in the morning, you have the entire trail to yourself. It's about a 12-mile round trip, which is takes about 10 hours. It's a long trek, especially when you add a river current to that. And I'll be honest, it was really hard. It was very stressful. I found myself at points being like, why the heck did we do this? But now looking back, it was incredible to be able to see that, to see the sunlight just reflecting off these canyon walls, to hear the river, to just be surrounded by nature with no one else that you could see in front or behind you was just amazing. And one of the reasons I love to travel is because it gets me out in nature. And for me, that's such a spiritual place. That is where I feel most alive. That's where I feel most in touch with myself. And it's a great stress management tool for me when I'm traveling because travel does get stressful.
That totally. And I'm going to have a soup pie, to the bottom of the Grand Canyon next week.
Wow, awesome.
Uh, and I've done that hike once, and I had, and it was just an amazing experience. So I'm doing it again, but I'm gonna stay a little bit longer this time, and I'm gonna try to do a couple of hikes. And one of the greatest things about this is that when you go hiking, like, we are so lucky in the United States to have such a robust network of, like, parks in national parks. Uh,
Yes.
because I feel super safe. You know, if something happens, there's a way out. You're not in the middle of the Amazon, and then, uh, but at the same time, there's no cell phone service. There's no email. So
Yes.
I'm going to be out in the middle of the Grand Canyon in one of the most beautiful places in the world, for about 4.5 days, completely detoxing of media and any of the social media and electronics, and waking up and going to bed with the sun, and really just having very good movement for those 4 days. And we are so lucky, and I don't understand why people don't take more advantage of this.
Yeah. What a gift that is to yourself. That's fantastic. I hope you have the best trip. And that's a lot of what I did on my road trip cross country. It started with Zion National Park, where that Narrows hike was. Then I went up to Grand Teton National Park, which, holy crap, those mountains are just stunning, amazing. and then back down to Utah to Arches and Canyonlands National Park. Also along the way, I hit Shenandoah National Park. There is just so much incredible geographic diversity to see in this country. I've driven through 49 states now. I have one left before I hit all 50. So trust me, I've seen a lot of this country. And if you don't have a national parks pass, go spend the $80 right now. Plan your next weekend, go do a hike, and just go see what our country has to offer, because you don't need to travel internationally to get a good vacation experience. It's right here. It's right in your backyard.
And what's more paleo than putting, 40 or 50 pounds on your back and, surviving? Because
Absolutely.
someone was asking me, what do you do once you get there? And I said, you survive. That's it.
Yeah.
You pitch your tent, you start thinking about, okay, when is my next meal? And then you think about, okay, I'm going to go do a hike, take some trail mix, come back. It's time to start thinking about dinner because it's going to get dark fast.
Yes.
And then you
Yeah.
sit around and you talk and it's amazing, so you are just thinking about survival and just trying to make yourself the most comfortable while you're working, and it's constant work and it's exhausting,
It is.
but it's so
It
much
is.
fun.
Exactly. Like camping, it strips away the bullshit of everyday life.
Yeah.
And it takes away the judgments that you're feeling. It takes away the things that aren't important. Like when I was art directing, I used to get stressed out because I couldn't find 1,000 flashlights that we needed to give to the audience in the next 2 hours before the show went live. So when you really get out into nature and start camping, that stuff seems so unimportant. It seems so far away, and you're just worrying about survival. You get to walk around your campsite barefoot. You get to worry about having shelter for the night.
Yeah.
If your tent's going to blow away because winds are gusting 60 miles an hour. How if the wood for your campfire is damp and it's going to take you an hour and a half to light a campfire to cook your meal. And like you said, just falling asleep and waking up with the sun and waking up to the sounds of birds and seeing lightning bugs in the forest. Like that's the real stuff. That's the good stuff. And it's so great to give ourselves the opportunity to disconnect from the hubbub and the busyness of everyday life and just really reconnect with what's important.
It's just fun. I love camping.
Me too. Me too.
I'm so jelly about the Narrows because I've been
You have to do it.
I've been looking at that hike for a couple of years now. And it's just with school and all that, but I will do it. I gotta do the
Good.
Narrows.
And make sure rent the canyoneering boots and the walking stick.
Okay.
It's gonna make a huge difference. I
Did you have to
promise.
float your backpack at any point?
I didn't float my backpack, but I did have to carry it above my head because
Oof.
there was a couple areas where you were walking and the water was chest high. And I know a couple hikers that were ahead of us that had to swim through a couple areas because they didn't figure out what path you could take that would be the lesser of the two evils. So they were right up to their necks, and I think their backpacks got wet.
Yeah, because one of my friends did it, and they took like floaties, and they just
Hmm.
put their backpack, inflatable, and they just
Mm,
floated it.
brilliant.
Brilliant. It's been such a pleasure to first connect with you at Paleo FX, and then following you through this, like living vicariously through you, because it looks like so much fun. Like you're having so much fun.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a blessing to be able to pack up and head out and be a bit of a nomad and also be able to work and help people along the way. I get so much satisfaction from it, and I'm just so grateful to be able to pursue my two true passions in life.
So, what's the plan? Heading back? Are you just going to fly all the way back, or are you not?
Oh, heck no. I have my fun red Mini Cooper with me, so I will be driving that baby back cross country to Los Angeles. Originally, I thought that I was going to be driving at the beginning of September, but now I feel like the summer's going by really fast and I might be spending a little bit more time on the East Coast. So, the great thing about being a health coach is that I don't have to be anywhere to do my job. As long as I have access to phone or an internet, I can be wherever I want. So I just plan to roll with the punches and see what I want to see and work my way back when I want to get back to Los Angeles.
A lot of my friends, and that's the dream. Like when you talk to someone and they say, "Oh, I just want to travel and I want to do stuff outside of a radius of 10 miles, that where you live." How did you set up yourself to be able to take clients remotely? How did what were some steps that you took in order to be able to do what you're doing?
I went into health coaching with the mindset that it was a means to an end. It was one, a way to share my passion for health and wellness with others. But the other major component in becoming a health coach was that I would be able to do it from anywhere. I always knew from the beginning that I would either be working with clients on the phone or through Skype. And I have worked with coaches myself throughout my health journey. That's one huge way that I myself got over, made peace with my emotional eating and body image issues. So in that relationship, I realized that working with a coach over the phone was really powerful. And in fact, it was almost freeing because you didn't need to worry about how you appeared on a screen. You could just be relaxed and be yourself and listen to the voice on the other side of the line. So I knew that there was power in that, and that I wouldn't be taking anything away from my clients by offering that means of communication and that way of doing our sessions. So for me, it was really about knowing what I wanted and then figuring out the middle part of how to get there. So, for anyone that's looking to travel and be geographically independent when it comes to work, the first thing is seeing what you can do with your current situation to make that happen. So, if you're someone who is tied to an office and you have to be there, like you might need to start thinking about how you can take your skill set and move it to a different job. But if you're someone who goes into an office every day and like it's not critical that you're there communicating with bosses or other employees, start to think about how you can give the same or more value to your bosses by being geographically independent. What additional experiences can you bring to the table by doing that? And approach them with that idea. Say, this is what I can offer. I can be this much more powerful and helpful and bring this much more to the table if I'm not trapped here in this cubicle. So yeah, it's about figuring out how, one, to benefit yourself and make it possible for you, and then two, if you do have a boss, figuring out what's going to make it beneficial for them.
Super interesting. Yeah. Because you do hear a lot of people, wanting to do what you're doing and you're actually living it. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's a work in progress for sure, and I just hope that I can keep doing it.
So how do you stay comfortable being uncomfortable?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And being on the road this time around has really brought that to light. There have been moments when I've been as stressed as I am traveling as I have been as an art director.
Mm.
So for me, it's about making sure that there's plenty of me time amidst the unfamiliar, the unknown, the new experiences. Because when you're traveling, you're exposed to brand new things every day, and the body loves routine, even though the mind loves freedom. So I try to structure my day so that my mind has some comfort. So I always make sure to get 8 hours of sleep because I know that that's what's going to make me mentally and emotionally resilient, and it's going to make me awake and energized to take on my day. I start my morning with 10 minutes of meditation because I know that by centering myself and quieting my mind, I am going to just be in my own power and be present and not feel like my day is starting with a bang, with a go go go, you have to be in it. So giving myself that time to ease into the day. And then also being able to tune into my body and my mind signals, knowing that okay, as an introvert, maybe I've had a little bit too much social interaction in the last week. maybe I just need to be in 100% control of the situation. So listening to that overwhelm and that stress and being able to put myself first and say, I need some time for myself, which is a really hard thing to say. But that's what's going to keep me running smoothly and keep me present and able to have a wonderful experience and take in all this new information. So it's really about just creating this awareness with your body and making sure that you're meeting your body's needs so that you can have the best experience and the best trip possible.
You just said that you're an introvert.
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
okay, so I have a friend, Tiffany, and she is an introvert, and she always like yells at me because I had a very wrong definition in my head of what an introvert is. For
Hmm.
our listeners, I'm gonna ask a dumb question. I know the answer, sort of. How can you call yourself an introvert if you have a Instagram and you're posting pictures of yourself and you're sharing all of this with everyone, your most darkest secrets?
That's
Ellen,
a great
how can you call yourself an introvert?
That's such a great question, and honestly, it was one of the most uncomfortable things that I started doing. Like, an an introvert is someone who gets their energy from being by themselves or being alone. Extroverts get their energy from being with other people. They feed off having conversations, being around other people's energy. But us introverts, we need that time by ourselves to recharge and connect with ourselves so that we can hang out with other people. It's not to say we don't love hanging out with other people and chatting. I definitely do. But and that's where Instagram comes in is when I started, I really started ramping up my Instagram back in February, starting to get on stories. The first story I did was probably the scariest thing that I've done all year. I can't even tell you. I was like, because you're talking to this video screen and you have no idea, like, who's listening, and you feel like you're talking to yourself. And I never wanted to make my Instagram like about selfies or like sharing pictures of like my face or anything like that. I just wanted it to be about the paleo food that I was eating, but I realized that I could give more value to my followers if I was telling my story and if I was sharing my experiences. And that involves me putting myself on a video screen and putting it out there. So it's not something that comes naturally to me by any means. There's a lot of thought that goes into the stories that I post, and I often am kicking myself because I don't feel like I'm out there enough or I'm sharing every experience. But I know that for me to give my full self to my followers and give the most value to the people who want to learn how I do it, that I need to balance my off-screen time with my on-screen time. So it's a work in progress, like everything else is in my life. And there are definitely things that I want to do better, but I learn as I go and I learn with every story. And I love feedback on stories. So if anyone's ever watching one of my stories and they think something's great or they want to learn more about something, drop me a message. I love hearing about that. I want to know what my followers and readers want to know about, because that's what fires me up is helping people break through barriers and confront challenges that they're not sure how to tackle.
We have like this picture, this caricature of like Wednesday Adams as being the introvert, and we think that
Hmm.
that's introversion. This person
Right.
that is very quiet in the corner of the room, 24/7, and that's not true.
Right. Exactly.
An introvert, like I love your definition, how getting the energy by being on your own, and having to take some time for yourself and recharge in order to be able to go hang out. Now, do you have trouble hanging out with like large groups of people?
Yes, I do. Honestly, yes. As much as I wish that wasn't the case, it's challenging. I also am not a I don't like confrontation. I don't like having to, prove myself. I don't like having to fight people or debate. especially when I know that someone's not really interested in my opinion. They have their own beliefs and they know what they want to hear. So in situations like that, I like to, take a back seat and watch the action happen. So I thrive most in one-on-one situations. I thrive most when I'm able to get past the small talk and really have a deep, meaningful conversation with someone. That's what gives me energy. That's what makes me light up. That's what I enjoy the most.
So, any tips or any mantras that you tell yourself over and over whenever you find yourself? I imagine that working on a TV set, there's a lot of people there. Uh, how do you control that, and how do you like funnel all that, and shut it down for a couple of minutes in order to be able to perform your job?
Yeah, that's a great question because on a TV set for 12 hours a day, you're just constantly hit with demands, especially when you're loading in a show, which is setting up the set. You've got crew guys that are like, "How does this piece go together? Why didn't the scenic shot bring this?" And then you've got producers being like, "Okay, why does your budget look like this? Oh, we need these 500 extra things. Can you get that by tomorrow morning?" So you've got demands just hitting you from every which way. So what I came up with was making whatever time I could sneak away for lunch sacred. And some days it was the hour that we would get as part of like the union break, the crew break. And sometimes that's 5 minutes because I have a zillion things to do and I need every possible minute to get it done. So my lunch became my happy place. And I would take my Tupperware container out of my lunchbox. I would go find a microwave if I could to heat it up, or if I knew there wasn't going to be a microwave there, I'd bring a salad or something that I could eat cold. I'd warm it up and I would take that time that the microwave is running to breathe. Close my eyes, take a few deep breaths, center myself, find that inner calmness, and then I would find a place to sit outside if it was at all possible. In LA, it's beautiful 95% of the time. So a lot of times that I was able to make that happen. But like we discussed, I know that nature is what lights me up and makes me feel comfortable. So I would be able to sit outside, eat my food, listen to the birds, and just feel that energy kind of flowing back to me. A lot of people like to go out to eat on the lunch break because they're not bringing their own food. So a lot of times, especially if I was working with a bigger art department, it would be like, "Hey, Ellen, come join us for lunch. We're going to go to, this Italian place," or like, and I knew for myself that I had to make the decision to just be by myself. And I was okay with that because I knew that that's what was going to get me through the next 6 to 8 hours of my day.
And that's so crazy because like I don't like eating by myself.
Hmm.
So it's like so insane to me that like I make sure like if my girlfriend goes out of town, I like schedule like dinners with friends.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Yep.
How
And
crazy
on
is
the
that?
flip side, I'm like here in New Jersey and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited that my friend has to go to work today so that I can have the entire house to myself."
it, but but that's what gives this movement so much power, because you had the balls to go to this charity event to mingle. Like that was and that's where we met. And now we are sharing like completely different perspectives on the same movement for people of all sorts of inclinations, and that's amazing.
Yeah. I know that's one of the, even though I am an introvert, I love meeting new people. There's always something to learn. There's always value that you can take from a conversation with someone. Sometimes you meet someone who's not very interesting and that's okay, but other times you just meet people that you connect with, that you can learn so much from, and that's definitely something that I felt about you when we met at Paleo Effects. I'm so grateful that I came out to that charity dinner. I'm so grateful that I met all the people that I did at Paleo Effects because it's being able to see all these different experiences that people bring to the table, and there's so much to learn from each other. There's so many different ways that we can continue to improve our health, just can continue to improve as human beings. And if we're all working together instead of working separately, we become that much stronger as individuals and as a community. And I just think that that's the most beautiful thing.
Are you planning to go to AHS?
I would love to. It's in September in Seattle, right?
Yep.
Do you know what the dates are?
The 7th through the 9th or something like that.
It could be incentive to get me on the road sooner and do a northern route driving back to Los Angeles, but I would love to. I would love to be there, but we'll see what
I'm
happens.
presenting. Rob is gonna be there. Dan Party is gonna present. Chris Masterjohn.
Mm,
Denise Minger. It's
it's a
going to
good
be
group.
amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, and
Ah,
and I can put you in really crowded situations with lots of faces and lots of very cool people where I can make you super uncomfortable.
awesome. Perfect. Sounds great. Sounds like a weekend I will grow as a human being.
Ellen,
I love
it's
it.
been such an amazing interview, and I can't wait to, to maybe do some collaborations and start working together, to help more people because it really seems that the more we expand, the more flavors of paleo that we need to have. And I don't care what you call it, paleo, whatever. We need to have different perspectives. And having you on our side is, on this side is like super amazing. And plus it gives me really nice 30-second breaks from studying to see your your Instagram stories.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That really means the world to me. I'm so grateful to be part of this community. It's just full of incredible people. So I look forward to collaborating, and I can't wait to just help as many people and change as many lives as possible in whatever way I and we are able to do that.
So, Ellen, where can people find you? How can people get in contact with you? What's the best way of them looking at your adventures and following you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter at Triple Peak Paleo. And you can find me on my website and blog at triplepeakpaleo.com. And to get in touch with me, you can shoot me an email through my website, go to the contact page, and let me know what's going on in your life because I'd love to hear about it. Or email me directly at triplepeakpaleo@gmail.com. And a lot of people wonder what the Triple Peak Paleo is about. And
Oh, are you gonna tell us?
I would love to. We just had this amazing conversation about nature and national parks and how nature is a very spiritual place for me. And that's what Triple Peak Paleo represents. It's mountains. I grew up in Vermont. It's the Green Mountain State. Mountains are always where I felt the most comfortable, the most at home. When I was at my most stressed out as an art director, I always went camping as my go-to to de-stress and just get back to who I was as a person. So mountains are our life. Mountains are what give me my energy, what and the metaphor of climbing a mountain and hitting your peaks and being the best version of you. So that's what it's about for me. And the triple part is nutrition, fitness, and mindset because those are what I believe it takes to be a well-rounded, healthy, happy human being. So there's a lot of layers in there, but that's what it adds up to.
Thank you so much for the interview, and hopefully I'll see you at AHS.
Yes, I would love that. You've seriously got me considering that. I'm gonna have to see how that fits in with my travels. Thank you so much, Guillermo.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye bye.